welcome to PrepZone on the road. We are at Martin County, if you couldn't tell by the giant dancing tiger. And I'm John Santucci. This, of course, is Dennis. He wants to do a drum solo later. Jacob? No? Okay. All right, well, let's jump right into it. By the way, we are here for Martin Bowl. That's what this very nice trophy is here for, so we appreciate
one of the
Martin
best
County
looking
having us.
rivalry trophies I think I've ever seen. I love that trophy.
I think they need to update the helmets, though. I think that's very retro looking, so I don't think South Fork has dogs on the side of their helmets anymore. That's okay. All right, Dennis, before we get into week 6, let's end week 5. Your biggest takeaway from last week's games?
I'm going to go with Fort Pierce Central. They were in a dogfight with Wallington, 28-24 at the half. Wallington was throwing the ball literally at will in that game, but then
apparently no Wellington fans here.
Apparently not. The Cobras responded with a 35-0 second half run to win 63-24 to go to 4-0 for the second year in a row. And I'm not sure anyone thought this team would come out of the gates 4-0. Not only 4-0, but an impressive 4-0 when you can make those kind of halftime adjustments as Central did last week, shut down Wallington's passing game, and get your own offense cranked up. I think it shows two things. Number one, you can make the playoffs, and number two, you can make some noise when you get there.
Yeah, you know, Central, their game against Wellington was very similar to their season. Start out slow, and then all of a sudden they can't be stopped. Last week they're down 10-0 after 9 minutes. They average a touchdown every 4 minutes after that. So very impressive win for them to come back the way they did. My biggest takeaway actually is the guy behind me, Austin Kirkendall, continues to play outstanding for Martin County. Set the school record. They've heard of him.
Yes.
But he set the school record. He needed 5 weeks to break his own record from his sophomore year. So for a guy to go from playing okay as a sophomore, some struggles with some turnovers, to last year playing all of one drive and then getting hurt, to now breaking his own school record in 5 games is remarkable.
It is. Very impressive.
All right. Dennis, some news yesterday. State has changed the FHSA has changed the playoff format. So now only the district champion gets in. It used to be district champion, district runner-up, very simple. Now you have to be able to do 12th grade calculus in order to make the playoffs. There's a point system involved, different things. Only the district champ goes classes 4A down to 1A. There's no districts anymore starting next year. What is your thought on this playoff format?
Well, first of all, I didn't take calculus through my freshman year in college, but I'll let that slide.
Okay.
I think I'm never a fan of anything that requires a point system because it's not fan friendly. You've got to try to think in your head, okay, is this a 35-point win or a 45-point win or a 50-point win or whatever, and you're actually having to spend the bulk of your time rooting for other teams to win just so you can get more points. I think it's a lot simpler when it's head-to-head. Team A beats Team B, Team B's done, or at least in a lot of trouble. Right. So I understand the reason they're trying to do this. They're trying to weed out the teams that have, 1 or 2 win teams getting into the playoffs, and yes, 1 win teams have made it in. Especially you look at District 15 5A. Right. Suncoast is 2-2, Port St. Lucie's 1-3, Westwood's 1-4. 2 of those 3 teams are guaranteed to make the playoffs this year. I think in the new formula that won't happen, but I do think it's a confusing thing. I also think that maybe we're getting too carried away with emphasis on playoffs. I think playoffs are important and they matter, but I think if you look back to the history of high school football in Florida, certainly around here at least, rivalries have always been the thing that's driven the sport. I think rivalry attendance has always been much better here than that for playoff games, except for the possible exception of Vero Beach, which always draws regardless of the opponent. So I think sometimes the old ways are getting lost in this mad rush to try to make sure that the only teams that ever make the playoffs are the total elite.
Here's my thing with it. One, here's the only thing I like about it, is that you will have less poor teams make. That's the only thing I like. A couple years ago, and if it was 2014, had the districts been the way they are now, Port St. Lucie, Suncoast, and Westwood all finished 1-8 or 1-9 in Suncoast's case. 2 of those 3 teams would have made the playoffs. That should not happen. But my response would not be, let's go to a point system. I don't think that's the best way to do it. I'd like to see them go to back to bigger districts. I'd like to see them go to 6 classes instead of 8 or even 9 in the future. Go to 6 classes, have bigger districts. Martin County here is in district with South Fork, Vieira, Melbourne, and all I have to do is say Martin County and they woo. It's nice. But they're in a district with only 3 teams, 3 other teams. I'd like to see them be in a district with 6 teams and make more games count. In fact, Coach, I want to get your thoughts on this. If you grab the mic real quick. What do you think about this? Do you like this point system, or would you maybe like to see bigger classes or bigger districts?
No, I like the bigger classes. I like that more district opponents, so that you really have to win your games on the field in order to make the playoffs. I don't like to put it into a computer and see what it spits out.
Perfect, and that's why we like Coach Kendon, because he agrees with us.
One more note on that. The FHSA, when they released these changes yesterday, used Class 8A last season as an example, and wouldn't you know it, Vero Beach, of course, would have been in because they won the district, but Treasure Coast would have made the playoffs, regardless of whether it was a runner-up or not. But Fort Pierce Central, which finished third in the district with a 6-3 overall record, would have made the playoffs because of its strong schedule.
Right, and let me add in one more thing here that does concern me, and I think is part of a bigger conversation. Teams that, and this is not a shot at anybody, but teams that have been traditionally struggling teams, at Port St. Lucie, Westwood, which I think has won 7 or 8 games over the last 5 years, teams are not going to want to play them because they're going to be worried that it's going to hurt their point system. So are these teams that have traditionally struggled, even if they get good, are they going to have trouble filling out a full schedule?
You would think maybe in the short term at least that they might, until they could prove that they can win some games, and people would probably be more willing to play them.
But now we're shorting the kids again.
That seems like a negative to me.
Right. Okay, so let's do this. Martin County, we are here. They've been throwing the ball all over the field. They have not put much of an emphasis on the run game. Can this team continue to win? Can they continue to have success if they don't run the ball more?
I'm not sure you can win in the playoffs if you can't run the ball at least a little. But right now, you can't argue with the formula. They're throwing the ball, they're making plays, they're winning games. The thing that I take away from Martin County, really more than their running game, whether it can or can't be effective, is the way the defense has improved since the Week 1 loss to Okeechobee.
Right.
They gave up 49 points in that game, and it looked like every game was going to be a shootout. That has not been the case. They have been very productive, very efficient on offense in the 4 games since, all of which were wins.
Yeah, you know, and by the way, you played Bubba Flood at home in his season opener, so that's always going to be tough, speaking of that first loss. But, you know, I think it's no different than if you run the ball a lot and throw the ball little, as long as you're effective in doing what you do. So if they want to throw the ball all over the place, that's fine. If you want to throw 80% of the time, that's fine. Those 20% of the time that you run, though, you better make it count, and you better be able to move the ball enough to make the defense worry about it. That's all I think. All right. Let's get into these guys over here. George Johnson, quarterback, wide receiver. Do you play any other positions, or is that all of them?
That's it.
Okay, no running back this year?
No running back.
Okay. George, I want to ask you, you played in this game last year as a freshman. What is Martin Bowl like being under those lights as a freshman in high school?
Last year I was so nervous, like I couldn't sleep at night. I looked at the sands and I just froze. This year, it's just another game.
Just another game. All right, so there's no difference between playing South Fork or Treasure Coast?
No difference.
Real quick, is there a difference between playing South Fork or Treasure Coast? Wow. I think you're all lying, because they don't have a trophy here for Treasure Coast. That's all I'm saying. You made the transition this year, playing a little more wide receiver. Has that been difficult for you? I know you like playing quarterback.
No. Like at first I didn't like it. Then I started playing, I was like, dang, I'm pretty good at it, so I might just keep playing.
Again, we are speaking with George, Mr. Humility Johnson. What do you've seen the film, you've seen a little bit of South Fork. What do you got to do this week to have success?
Like everyone thinks, stop Cephas and Stanley, and you're fine.
Stop Cephas and you're fine. Okay, that should be on a bumper sticker. Why don't you hand that over to Coach George? Appreciate it.
Coach Kenyon, it's interesting to note that Vero Beach is 5-0, Fort Pierce Central's 4-0, Sebastian River's 4-0, and these are 3 teams that were on the schedule as recently as a few years ago. With the new FHSA rule putting a more emphasis on the strength of schedule, what are the chances that one or more of those teams might find its way back in the team schedule in the near future?
Well, what we wanted to do was we looked at our schedule and we, again, with all due respect to the rivalries and everything else, we wanted to play a different schedule than the same one every single year. So my athletic director and I sat down and we came up with, how can we expand a little bit more, because we really wanted to make sure that we were prepared in case we did make the playoffs, that we had to travel. So we were used to traveling. But I like the fact that we do have a very good group around us that plays very good football, to the point where if you do schedule these teams, your strength of schedule is still going to be there. You don't have to travel all around the state to play quality opponents, because they're right here in your backyard.
You look at this. You look at this season, we've talked about it, how Austin Kirkendall's had a terrific year throwing the football. What's the biggest change you've seen in him from his previous years with Martin County?
Well, it's funny because we talked about this just yesterday in my office. There was a particular play last week where he hung in there, threw the ball, took a shot after he just released the ball, and probably in years past he probably tucks the ball and either gets sacked or he tries to get a little bit of a gain. But he threw the ball to allow his play to develop, and also to allow his players to make a play. And that, I think, along with the increased emphasis on the offensive line, and then we have a great receiving core. You can't just double team one guy. We have guys all across the board that can go out and get the ball. So with all that being said, I think it's making for a really good fit.
Beyond the rivalry, obviously Martin Ball is a huge game in that regard, but it's also a district game. And teams historically that won their district opener have a much better chance of making the playoffs. A year ago, you guys were able to contain Stone Lebanowitz. What's the key to doing it again this year?
I don't know if we contained him, but we definitely went, I think, toe-to-toe with him last year. And I like our chances this year as well. They have a very good offense. Their offensive backfield is dynamic. We've broken down film all weekend. But at the end of the day, they've got to play us too, and they've got to stop our guys too. So we like what we do. We like how we're doing it on the field, and we're just ready for Friday night, to be honest with you.
So what would you say is the biggest key Friday night?
The biggest key is probably going to be stopping their offense and scoring more points than they do.
Wow, that's really great insight. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
That's the whole playbook right there. This is why he's lasted so long. Let's see, what do you want to do, Coach? Let's score more than them. That sounds like a good idea. Wow. All right, anyways.
Although I should point out, nobody's ever lost a game when they've scored more points than the opponent.
Yes, but you might score more points now and still not make the playoffs.
True.
All right, so let's get into this week's games. Lot of big district games this week. Conference game, Berean at St. Ed's. This game was moved to Thursday night at 6 o'clock because of some field issues at Berean. St. Ed's wins. They're all but guaranteed a playoff spot. How do you see this game going down?
I think St. Ed's got a big boost with the return of Danny Walsh last week. I think they're playing with a lot of confidence. They took a Windermere prep team that was averaging 50 points a game and just crushing people, lost by 4. A game
Right.
They were in it all the way to the end. I look for St. Ed's to win this game 35-17.
Yeah, I think St. Ed's, it took a couple weeks, I think, for them to find their footing, maybe get conditioned to play a full game. They're there right now. I don't think they have any problems with Berean. I think it's going to be 28-17, but I think it's going to be a sound win for them. Aquila Military, I hope I'm saying that right, at John Carroll Catholic.
Well, I think John Carroll's really starting to get things together now. I think their offense is starting to click a little bit better. And I think if they can continue that progress, they're going to have no trouble this week. I look for John Carroll to win 41-14.
Yeah, this is a mismatch. I'm sorry, but John Carroll's going to be fine. They played well last week up at Father Lopez. The drive was not an issue for them. I think they're going to play well again this week. I think it's going to be 41-17. Port St. Lucie at Suncoast, another three-team district like we were talking about. Can PSL get that key win? You win this one, you're all but guaranteed a playoff spot. Can they get this win?
It's a huge opportunity for Port St. Lucie, but frankly, I just don't think they've been consistent enough on offense to be a threat. Suncoast has a great passing game, as we saw with that shootout loss to South Fork. So Suncoast wins this 31-14.
I think Suncoast, what'd you say?
31-14.
Same. Suncoast has too much offense at this point for Port St. Lucie. Heritage at Okeechobee.
Well, Heritage took Kissimmee Osceola to the wire last week before losing 14-6. So I think Heritage is going to be a little too much for Okeechobee this week. I think Heritage wins this 20-7.
I think Okeechobee has more than they showed us against Sebastian River. I think these guys here at Martin County can tell you that when Bubba's inspired, look out. This is a home game for, wow. We give the guy a game ball because he has 8,000 yards and they get mad. I don't know. I think Okeechobee wins this one 22-21. I think they're going to pull off what some people might say is an upset. I think these teams are actually pretty evenly matched this year. But I think Okeechobee gets the win here.
Wow.
So, Vero Beach at Centennial. Now, wait, hold on. 5 years ago, huge upset. Centennial wins 17-14. Can they repeat it 5 years later?
No. Vero Beach has won 29 consecutive regular season games. The Indians are showing a lot of versatility in offense. They can run it, they can throw it. The defense has been sound. Vero Beach rolls in this one 42-3.
So Centennial will score, though?
I think so.
I'm going to say it's going to be 35-0. I think that Ron Parker usually has a good defensive game plan for Vero. It doesn't last too long, though. There's just too much firepower. So, Centennial hasn't scored in like a month. So, yeah, I'm going to pick that one 35-0. Sebastian River at Jensen Beach. Now, Sebastian River, what are they cheering about? I said Jensen.
I know.
Sebastian River can make a big step towards basically taking control of the district here. How do you see this one playing out?
I think it's very simple. Sebastian River, 3 shutouts, 10 points allowed in the other game. They have been so sound on defense. I'm not convinced that Jensen Beach is going to be able to run the ball effectively. Now, they may get big plays, maybe in special teams, because they've been terrific at that. 4 punt return touchdowns this year. But I think Sebastian River's defense gets the job done. 20-7, Sebastian River.
20-7. I think, I say it every week. Until an offense proves that it can be better than the defense, I'm going to go with the defense. So I'm going to say Sebastian 21-3 wins that one. Treasure Coast at Fort Pierce Central. This was a huge upset last year. Treasure Coast shook up a lot of people's seasons. They go on to the playoffs last year. They win 21-14. Does Treasure Coast win this game this year?
It's the loss that cost Fort Pierce Central its playoff streak.
Right.
I think it's 6 years or 7
Correct.
years.
6.
6 years. And I think that hasn't been forgotten. New coach, but I think everybody still remembers what happened last year. And here's the interesting thing. How close is this game to being a matchup of 4-0 teams?
Right.
Treasure Coast lost 17-14, a late touchdown pass against Martin County, and lost in double overtime to Deltona. Very close to being 4-0, 4-0. That said, you just have to love the way Fort Pierce Central's played. They've shown on both sides of the ball how effective they can be dictating the flow of the game. I think they have way too much offense. I think Treasure Coast will play well, but I think the difference is Fort Pierce Central's offense will score a lot more points than Treasure Coast. So Central wins this game 21-7.
21-7. See, by the way, I love that you said, oh, how close has this been to a matchup of 4-0? And somebody's like, not even close. It's a 3-point game. You guys won. But, you know, I think the defenses for me pretty much are a wash. I think they're both very good. I think they got a lot of good players. Then it comes down to the offense. I think Central has a more explosive offense. I think they win this one 28-12. So, last game, you might have heard of it, Martin Bowl 33. Now, remember, they don't care about this game. It's just like playing Treasure Coast. How do you see this game playing out?
Well, here's a bet you didn't know before we go further. The series started in 1984, and I'm the one that covered the game, so it shows you how long I've been around. Last year, Martin County was able to stop sophomore quarterback Stone Lebanowitz. He was 6 of 17 for 61 yards. I think if Martin County can do that again, they're going to be in good shape, especially because they're able to throw the ball effectively. And Southwark showed against Suncoast, they struggle when teams really start going vertical. I think Martin County wins this game 28-7.
Whoa. What's the score?
Did I say 28-21? Sorry, my mind's
28-7.
28-21.
Wow. All right, well, here's where I'm at. I think that, interestingly enough, both of these offenses do what the other team at points has struggled to do. Martin County's going to throw the ball. South Fork showed against Suncoast there can be suspect to that. South Fork's going to run the ball a lot, and at times Martin County has struggled to stop the run. Don't get mad, it's true. So, here's the thing. Boo all you want, look at the stats. Here's the thing. I think, first of all, this is going to be one of the highest scoring games in this series. Second of all, I think that basically whoever has the ball last is going to win, and I flip a coin. I think it's going to be Martin County, 35-31. Martin County trophy stays here. Now it's funny, the trophy stays here and they're not allowed to touch it, so I don't know. I'm going to put that right there. All right, that's it for us. We want to hear back from you guys. Hashtag TC PrepZone, at John Santucci, at Dennis Jacob80. They're throwing out free stuff. We'll see you guys later.
See ya.
Oh, my bad. Good job.
Thank you.
Give him a hug. 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 Give him a hug.
I only hug people with 10 toes.
With what?
10 toes.